Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome. Today we have a very special guest on the channel. Nathan from Legendary Tactics is going to join us to talk about his top 10 war games of all time. Now, if you're not familiar with Legendary Tactics, I'll put a link to their YouTube channel down below. Nathan is one of 3 members on the channel. They have nearly 60,000 subscribers. Fantastic board gaming channel that I highly recommend. Additionally, in Nathan's top 10 are a lot of older and out of print war games. And a great source for picking up those games is one of our channel sponsors, Noble Knight Games from Wisconsin, who ships all across the planet. So if you're looking for some of the games that Nate mentions, or just want to look for some war games in general, Noble Knight Games is a great source to pick those up. Links are down below to the games that Nathan mentions. And if you do happen to use one of those links to buy something from Noble Knight Games, thank you very much, as those links do help support what goes on at the channel. And with that, let's talk to Nate. So joined here today by Nathan from Legendary Tactics, which has a YouTube channel with 2 other partners, and they are approaching the 60,000 subscriber mark. They do a lot of videos on crunchy games, on a variety of different games, and also have a very strong component of war games. Invited Nathan here. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we are here today to talk not about your 10 general board games across the thing, but a very specific topic that I think our viewers will be very interested in, which is your 10 favorite war games. Is this for 2024 or just in general?
I made it more of an all-time list, and I made it,
excellent.
Okay. Yeah. So there, if people have watched our channel, they may see a few repeats, but I thought, I've kind of mixed it up maybe a little bit because there's so many great war games out there. It's hard to narrow it down.
Yeah. And I know from our conversations, we met in person in Circle DC last year. I know from our conversations that you are a big war gamer and love historical board games, although it's not the sole focus of your channel. So I'm really curious to see what your top 10 list is. Shall we jump right in and get started with the content?
Do it.
Okay. So I will just give you an intro. Number 10. I'll let you go and run with it here. Yeah.
So number 10 is the Quebec 1759. I hope that's working all right there. This is an old title from Columbia Games, and it is brilliant in its simplicity. There's only a handful of turns that you have in the entire game, basically, and you can each turn you only move one group of troops from one spot to another, and that's your move. And it's all hidden movement you reveal simultaneously.
It's a block game, right?
It's a block game, so there's all the bluffing and so forth that you would enjoy from a typical block game. But it's super simple to learn. It's simple to play, but there's a lot of strategy that goes on. And it does tell the narrative of the fall of Quebec City in 1759. And as a Canadian, it resonates with me. Actually, I bought it when I was in Quebec City. On part of my honeymoon, actually, and I found that. I'm like, oh, that's great. I got to get this. I remember playing it as a kid. So
I feel like there's a story in here that you're off buying board games on your honeymoon, but I'll leave that one for now. Okay. And for people that may be interested, I've just received word that there is a new edition of that game. I think it's almost 50 years old. And so there's a new game, a new version of this game coming to Kickstarter from Columbia Games. I'll put a link down below if people are interested in that.
Yeah.
So we go to number 9.
Number 9. Now, this one, I don't know if technically it's, in my mind, it's a war game, even though it's a little bit of a different take on war games. Mm-hmm. And that is Churchill by Mark Herman. Now, it's definitely a war game in many senses of the word. You're trying to advance into, an end World War II. But the heart of the game is the card play, where you're trying to pull issues towards your side of you're essentially trying to convince one of the other world leaders. You're either Churchill, Stalin, or Roosevelt, and later Truman, I guess. But you have to, pull all the issues as best you can towards you, the issues that matter the most. And depending on how those negotiations go, that's how the war plays out. And I've always played this. I really have to mix up my crowds because I always play this with my Legendary Tactics creators, and we always get so petty. And we always we never finish the war because we always end up just arguing over who took what issue. But we have so much fun doing it. It's just great. It's a great game, and I love the whole co-opetition aspect of it. It's really an excellent game.
Well, I know that's a classic in the field too, because you always see that one at any historical board gaming convention. There's always Churchill being played someplace,
Yes.
usually multiple times. So great choice.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right, shall we slide on
That's
to
great.
number 8?
All right. Ooh, here we go. This one, I was really kind of blown away by Skies Above the Reich by GMT. This game really impressed me because, number one, as someone who plays games of various kinds, I was blown away at how easy it was to learn and how the narrative develops over the course of the game. And the board is basically like a fixed formation or formations of bombers or whatever, or, so it's not a, it doesn't seem very dynamic when you look at it, but it's just so neat how it all plays out. And you play with the wooden blocks, but they're not hidden. It's a solitaire game. So you're moving them around and sending your fighters in to try and, get in with good position and try not to get shot down. But you're essentially, it's the German Luftwaffe at the end of the war when things were going badly anyway. And so it's a really challenging game from the perspective of trying to win, and you're not dominating. As
Right.
time goes on, it gets harder and harder to win. So,
And I know we were
really
chatting.
incredible game.
I know we were chatting earlier off camera about Advanced Squad Leader, and you mentioned the campaign games. Games that have legacy. So you spend 2 hours with the game, and then that game state carries over to the next session. And the campaigns in those games are fantastic too.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I was just, I didn't have any expectations going in, but it has become one of my favorite war games. I love to teach others, and but it's, play as a team, but it's also great as a solitaire experience as well.
Well, that's such a great choice for number 8. With that at number 8, I'm kind of curious to see where we go with the next 7. Shall we jump up to number 7?
This one is kind of a revitalized title for me, and it's the original title, Bismarck.
We are going classic here now.
Oh, this is classic. So this
well, I know not to interrupt you, but I know your channel covers. I mean, if people like Avalon Hill and the traditional game, that's a big component of your war game coverage on your channel. So if people are interested, they should check out your channel for that too, because you do a lot of stuff on Avalon Hill.
Thank you. Yeah. So Bismarck, that copy is the game that originally got me into really board gaming of any sort of historical war gaming or anything like that. I remember we were coming back from Florida. We went in, I think it was Bowling Green, Ohio. I believe we stopped in a mall there, and in one of the stores they had Bismarck, and I'd never seen anything like it. I bought it, I think if I remember correctly, I think it was like $12 at the time. And I bought it, and I would be reading the rules and setting up scenarios and stuff and making my dad play it, even though he wasn't a gamer of any kind. But the reason why it's revitalized is because we've started a sort of a play by email. So I've got my other 2 Legendary Tactics creators. I'm refereeing a game between them.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, but here the way I'm doing it is I don't teach them any of the rules. They just go in purely from a narrative experience, basically. Like we use the maps.
They're kind of telling you what they're trying to do, and then you execute it within the framework of the rules.
And then I make recommendations as their advisor. It's like, oh, this plane is short of fuel, we should probably send them back, that kind of thing. But the idea is they don't actually learn any of the official rules. It's all being told as a narrative, and that's been really a fun experience. But it's a bit of a time-consuming one. I'm not sure when that video will be coming out, but we'll be chatting about that. Because the back and forth takes some time and that sort of thing. But it's the original way of play by mail, the way they used to do it. So this is a version of that we thought would be fun.
Oh, that was a fantastic idea. Great. Yeah.
So that's why it's revitalized on my top 10 list now. All right, next one.
Yeah. Let's go. Number 6 on your list.
D-Day at Omaha Beach. One of the hardest solitaire games you will ever play in your life.
I can relate. It's actually, that game is number 1 on my top solitaire game list. My previous one. I might change it in the next version, but go ahead. I'll let you talk about it though. Yeah.
Well, no, it's so hard, but it's so fun. I don't know how to describe it. Why and the way the mechanics work, the way the map with all, it almost looks like someone spilled a bag of Skittles on the map. And but it's just so well done, and although as I said, it is hard, and you gotta love that about it. I'm
It is a game
currently,
that makes it's like, it's fun to lose though, right? Because I think every time you
yeah,
lose, you feel like you've learned a few things. And so as
yeah,
soon as you're done getting your butt kicked, you're like, oh, I think I can do better next time. And you do,
yeah.
and at some point, I've not beaten the game yet. Have you beaten the game yet?
No, no, I haven't. No, and
Okay.
in fact, I'm currently in the middle of a game right now where I'm right up to the gun emplacement there, and I'm just
Okay.
missing the one weapon. You know how you need the requirement of the weapons to like take it
Yeah.
out, and
Yeah.
I'm missing just the one guy, and he's halfway across the map. And I'm like, it's just like the frustration. I think I just need to restart because I just
Right.
the whole idea of getting that guy across the beach is going to be.
Yeah. But it captures that chaos so well. Like you get the
It does.
Sherman tanks that come in at the beginning and like half of them get sunk. And you're like, well,
Yes.
I got like two tanks now. It's like, what do I do? And I love the problems the game throws at you. And it
Yeah.
feels like, in a way, it captures, I think, the essence of a lot of the heroic struggle on the beach on that day.
Oh
And
yes.
you realize it feels so hopeless, and yet you have to keep moving forward.
Yes.
And it's such a brilliant game.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. So
Totally.
yeah, I just really enjoyed it, but I do want to beat it at some point.
Right. It's on my bucket list to beat as well. Yeah. Well, there's levels too, because there's like the full game, and then there's the the halfway game, and then
You can
playing
only
both
play the
sides
full
or
game,
singular.
Zilla. There's only
Okay.
one game. It's the full one.
Well, I'm leveling
can't-
up as I go. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay. Well, we could almost we could make a video on this one alone, but let's carry on to we're up to number 5 now.
5. Sorry, we
5.
did. This is number 5.
Okay, number 5. Yep.
All right, another GMT game. No Retreat: The Russian Front. And I have the other 4 as well, the No Retreat series. It seems like the 5th one actually just dropped off the P500 with GMT, which is terrible news. But hopefully, it gets picked up by another publisher or something. But
I suspect there are plans for that.
Yes, I imagine. But what I love about the Russian front in particular is I just find that the way it recreates history without forcing it. You make a lot of the same decisions that the commanders of that time made because it just makes the most sense based on the board situation. And it's just, I find it so instructive, but it's so compelling the way it all comes together. The event cards that kind of throw a spanner in the works when you're when you're doing combat. It's not just straight up die rolls. It's like, oh, but then I get this card and it does this. And there's a lot of fun variation there. I love the low counter density. It doesn't feel too much on the board. And just the story it tells of, the German advance and eventually the Russians slowly pushing back. And I just think it's a great version of, great telling of the war and the battle and the battles on the Eastern Front.
Yeah. And I think there's a theme here to all your games, in case I'm not sure if we're all aware of it, but there's that accessibility. And
yes,
I call it like table ability. Is this a game that's going to get to the table and get played? And I feel like with the No Retreat Russian Front, that's a super accessible game. It's playable in a time frame that you can play in an evening.
Yeah,
very replayable, and just ton of different strategies you can explore. I think it's the highlight in the series.
Yes,
I think it's the best one in the series by far. Not by far, but it's the best one in the series. But it's just some great gameplay. So great choice.
It's a lot of fun. All right, next up, and kind of again along the playability lines, Thunderbolt Apache Leader. Now this is Dan Versen Games, and it's interesting because I just got Phantom Leader, and I just got it to the table a few days ago for the first time. And that one, I don't know if that one's going to vie to compete with this one, but so far I don't have enough experience with Phantom Leader to say whether it's better or worse. Yeah. But at the bottom of all these leader games, I find it's all about the choices and the millions of decisions that you make over the course of a single campaign, and they all matter and they all play into the larger narrative, and it's they just leave a lot of choice with the players. And even though you're following a certain format, within that framework you have so much to do. So I have
leader games.
It's great.
Leader games are a special play, because when I got back into board wargaming about 3.5 years ago, that was the first game I bought, was not that one, but Sherman Leader. And I thought, am I going to like it and play it out? And I played a campaign, like 3 or 4 campaigns with Sherman Leader, because it was literally the only new game that I had. And I just absolutely, because it gets into that, we talked a little bit before, the same game with like Skies Above the Reich. It gets into this idea of games with a campaign and a legacy element. So you're leveling up your characters, leveling up your pilots, leveling up all these different aspects, and you never have enough resources. And what you do in Battle 1 carries over to Battle 2. And that's a fantastic strength of the Leader series, I think.
Yeah, and it's just managing your team. It's like it's like I played a great game by Compass Games this year called Stuka Storm of Steel.
Storm of Steel,
which is a Stuka dive bar. But a lot of it is the fun is in managing your team and who's stressed and unfit to fly. How many planes are undamaged or whatever. Like what can we send out? And it begins to be that management is really the heart of the game, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But with Thunderbolt Apache Leader, I think what elevates it is it's not just managing your guys. It's also actually tactically, how are you going to take out that SAM site? How are you going to take out those troops in the hill? And that's what I think it just elevates it, because you have so much agency in what otherwise could be a very procedural game.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And I know that within that leader genre, there are people that have their favorite leader games, and that one comes up often on the list for sure.
Yes. So, although now I'm having people telling me I should get Corsair Leader now, so we'll see.
That's like, and you're going to get Corsair Leader, and someone should say you should get this leader and that.
Yeah,
leader.
It's going to be endless.
Leader, it goes on. B-17 Leader is a really good one too. So
yeah, that's good. All right, so we're going to go with some classics for the last 3 here. So my number 3 is Up Front. Now I wish
I got that one.
Up Front.
You run.
Is it's not a perfect game in many ways, but it is so good at what it's trying to do. I find that sometimes the rules are maybe a little more fiddly than they should be. It comes from that era where of Advanced Squad Leader and so on, where the rules were all about adding as much chrome as possible. But if you play just a basic game with just the soldiers, don't involve any vehicles or artillery or whatever, but just play it is such an amazing game. And I love the fact that afterwards, even though the whole thing is drawn out essentially with cards and your imagination, the whole map you could actually draw it out if you wanted to. You could actually, if you recorded everything, you could literally show what that map board actually ended up looking like at the end. But it's just such a great thing with Fog of War and everything. I think they did such a great job with it.
Yeah. I'm going to mention 2 quick things here too. One is I just bought that game because I was playing. Lock and Load Publishing has one called Point Blank, which is a newer, modern take on that. I really like that game, and as I was playing that, everyone said, "Oh, you should check out Up Front." So I want to go just for legacy reasons. I want to go back and play one. So I just bought that game from Noble Knight, which quick plug, they are the channel sponsor. And if you're looking for a game like Up Front and finding it hard to find, Noble Knight Games in Wisconsin, they ship all over the world. They're a great place to look. So there's a link down below to them for this.
Awesome. Yes, I love Noble Knight. However, they are out of stock of Corsair Leader, just if you're wondering. I did take a look.
I think I could probably tell you, like, I have a want list that's got like 30 things on it, of which about half are out of stock, and I have the notifications enabled, and I can tell you exactly what they're in stock for that list as well. That's
so I have it flagged to notify me when it comes in, and then I'll have that decision of like, do I, don't I, how to anyway.
And sometimes you don't have a lot of time. It's like they can go fast. You get that email, you got to move. If it's one copy.
Absolutely.
So, all right, so we move on to number 2.
My number 2 is again a classic, Ambush by Victory Games.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've played this one, Zilla. Have you tried it?
It's on my shelf of opportunity.
Is it? Okay. I like
because
that.
It goes back again. It kind of go back. I missed like 25 years of wargaming, and so I still have like there's new many games come up. I have some games that I win. I said, okay, I'm going to get this game and I'm going to play it. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I've heard such good things. Yeah.
You mentioned you're interested in Dungeons and Dragons now. You started playing that. Mm-hmm. Ambush came out at a time when Dungeons and Dragons was the game everyone was playing. And you can see that in its roots. Like you roll for your starting characters, and they started with different abilities. Now you don't have strength, charisma, intelligence, whatever. You have driving skill, weapon skill, and a few other traits like that, lead initiative, that kind of thing. But it's kind of that combination of role-playing game and war game. And
I have not heard that spoken about it. That's a really interesting angle on this.
You can
going up in my list now.
You can really see the roots of it when you play like that. It's really great. But it's war game, but it's very narrative based. They have this weird, slidey thing that as you advance your troops through, it tells you what happens. And then when you have encounters, the German troops pop up and you have to attack them and try and keep your guys alive. There's an amazing article from years ago in the General magazine where they talk about this. There's a lot of campaign games where you'll, like Phantom Leader being one of them, you've got the cards and they level up in experience and so forth. But Ambush is a game where if a soldier gets shot and killed, that's it. That guy is no longer, because you're writing down his name. You're saying, hey, this is Joe Smith, and this is his traits. And you walk him through all these missions, and then he gets killed by a sniper in mission 4. And you're like, that original guy, like you feel that actual loss. Because that's
so there is no more. This is I know of its greatness, and it's also a Butterfield design, which is the same as D-Day at Omaha Beach. So you've got there's some similarity going on across here. I didn't realize there was that strong of a campaign element in it.
Oh, it's all about the campaign. They're not single missions. You have to take your squad through all these missions that get harder and harder and harder. And then when you complete that, then you can get Purple Heart or move out or whatever, which would be additional missions
and carry those over the same.
Yeah. So it's pure campaign. It was the very first campaign game I think I'd ever come across where it actually you carried forward the soldiers into the next mission.
And I had heard about it when I was doing like the top solitaire games, because people put that in and say ambush. And I was like, okay, I got to check this out. But that I haven't gone to this level of depth with it before. So this is really
but don't get too attached, because when those guys get run over by a Panther tank or something, you're like, no, not Hollywood. No. He was my favorite.
Oh, that's cool.
And then,
I think we are. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
They get replaced by. Sorry, just last thing. They get replaced by greenies who suck.
Well, those are the guys you put up front, right? It's like, you go first. You're the point position.
But then they panic and they hit the dirt. They're kind of useless. They have to be attached to your squad leader at all times. Otherwise, they're not very effective. So it's very good. It's very neat how they.
Oh yeah, no, I've heard fantastic things about it. It's more like so many games is the only reason that I haven't had a chance to dig into it yet. So I'm going to add it to my shelf of shame challenge for 2025. So are we up to number 1 now?
Number 1. And I feel like it's kind of obligatory, but well-deserved at the same time.
Okay.
Squad leader.
We were just talking about this. So you're going squad leader, not advanced squad leader.
Well, for me, advanced squad leader always seemed to be so intimidating. And to be honest, I only have the base game of squad leader. I didn't get into all the crazy expansions, although I've been interested in getting Cross of Iron, which is the first expansion that really upgraded the vehicle rules and everyone says is amazing. That one I'd be interested in trying, but maybe you've talked to me a little bit about an advanced squad leader. Maybe I'll give it a try. Maybe you and I can fire up a game sometime. But the original squad leader, I think, is just the way it models the human side of conflict. So many times you're bashing cardboard armies against each other, and they retreat and they advance, but to have squads break and panic and rout and hide in a building for the rest of the scenario, not doing anything, completely useless, that's more sort of true to life. And I feel like that aspect of it was captured in a really interesting and fun way with squad leader.
And I think the issues it ran into are the later editions when you got rules conflicts, and it got a little bit convoluted, so they sorted it out with the ASL. But I think that when you're looking at that squad leader game in and of itself, it's a true classic, and it's hard to go wrong for sure. It's a great choice. Yeah,
it's just the scenarios are fun. They're challenging. It's just an amazing experience. And
Yeah.
and
I
it
still have
also
like the Stalingrad map is probably burned in my head. I think I could, like,
yeah,
if you put me down, I could walk around. I could tell you where all the buildings are. Yeah.
yeah, the tractor factory and
Yep.
everything,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get the flamethrowers up and running on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So for me, I just find like it's just such a compelling gaming experience, and really is, in many ways, it represents, certainly of that era, the height of wargaming.
Yeah.
And there's been a
Well,
lot
it
of
revolutionized the genre too. I mean, if we think on Wargaming, that's a game that I think opened up. There are a number of games that came along that opened up what it could be, and kind of go
yes,
back, like armies banging against each other. This was something that said, no, we can play at a completely different level. We can explore a whole different tactical level. We can capture that human element with morale and panic, like you say. That's saying these are
yes,
real people in a physical space trying their best to survive and not get killed. And I
yeah.
think that there's so many revolutionary aspects to Squad Leader that change the way we think about historical board gaming.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I just figured it has to be my number one. I'd probably get a lot of flack if I didn't choose it as my number one. So,
Oh yeah, war
but it's a
gamers are
great,
very forgiving. It's
yeah,
yeah. There is the squad leader element there. You made the squad leader element for sure. But it's such a great choice. It's like we
yes,
play what we like, and this is really interesting to hear your top 10 and ending with
yeah,
squad leader like that when it's clear that you like the game and enjoy the game so much is just
yeah,
it's a perfectly fitting number one. So.
yes,
Well,
absolutely.
thank you so much for joining.
Thank you
I've
so
learned
much
a
for
lot
having
about
me.
you listening to your top 10 because I had no idea it was going to be in here. We didn't talk about anything beforehand. So this was a complete surprise to me, but, and it's I've in particular like Ambush and Upfront, which are two games that are on my shelf of opportunity. I'm bumping
Yes.
them up based on this conversation. So thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and insight and experience
Oh,
with the genre.
anytime. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Bye everybody. Thank you.